I opened up to a page and it was talking about how the universe is rebirthing and the earth represents the heart. So I was super excited. I'm always excited to read anything about the heart, but I would love to hear more about that, of how the earth represents the heart in the universe.
It's interesting that they've said a couple of different things around it. And one of the things they talk about is that what makes us very unique is our connection to emotion. And our connection to emotion is a combination of human density, which I know sometimes we think of as negative, or it can be seen as negative, that word. But they say the way that we experience emotions, and we have very visceral, embodied, connected experiences of layers of consciousness and dimensions, and we often interpret them as emotions. And I think there's a couple of different kinds of emotions that we can have. There's historic emotions, like, for example, you know, if Kyle, you were to say something to me that was a trigger for me, like, let's say you said, "Oh, Lee, you're so dumb,"
Lee,
and like,
you're
maybe yeah, you say that to me, and maybe I come from a childhood where I was taught to believe that about myself by parents or by people in the, you know, school, and it's a wound I'm carrying. It's like a fear, and you say something, and my emotion comes from within because it's old. It's like, oh, that's an emotion that's a weight in me that I haven't yet got to a place or a situation in my life where I can release it. Then there's the other kinds of emotions, which is free flowing. You know, you just, you see something beautiful and you have enough openness in your heart that no matter what was happening an hour ago, you can just go, wow, look at those birds flying across the sky. And there's just this kind of heart wonder about, wow, we're alive, and look, there's life happening right in front of us. And oh, there's the tax man on the phone again, and or accountant, or, you know, whatever it was that was a little, you know, an hour ago. So I think I feel that we have these layers of emotionality that we have often been, I think, taught are the heart in traditional human teaching. Whereas I think spiritual teachings have always, for, you know, thousands of years, told us it's ephemeral and it's here and it's out here. So when I think of what you guys stand for and are being ambassadors of with Heart Coherence, you're really holding a space for, we have these incredible hearts. They can be human, but there is also a real spiritual intelligence to this heart that we're reopening and reawakening. And it, you know, it takes work sometimes. We've got to let go of old stuff and density. And Aziz will say a lot of the emotions that very sensitive people feel can be picked up from the collective. They say that each of us are here to have a very uniquely focused emotional and heart-based journey. So for example, maybe you're here to overcome heartbreak. And so you'll have lots of situations of heartbreak that you learn to experience differently because you really want to move from heart wounds and heart shutdown. So to do that, you go, God, I had a really tough 25 years. First 25 years of my life were just full of heartbreak. And the way I used to respond was to get depressed or like hide in my room or whatever it was. And now I'm 45 and I can go, wow, that's cool. I no longer have that same response. The Z's will say that's your personal journey, but you're also creating a healed energy template and a journey in your energy field that others can feel and that you are seeding on the earth. So they say a couple of things about the earth and heart and emotionality. And they say the consciousness is rising on earth, which is causing quite a energetic war in a way between the old controlling, let's keep humans in a box stuff that's on the planet, which has been here for thousands and thousands of years, they say, and was seeded a long time ago, that more of us are beginning to question, go against, see, heal. But then they also say that it's really important that we embody that consciousness. And the way to do it is to run it through your human system. And that's what can push out the wounded areas and create space in the body where we can remember, oh yeah, I'm a human, but I'm also a spiritual cosmic being. and we were taught to forget that part. So it doesn't mean you have to run off to an ashram and never speak to your family again because you think they're too dense. You can still be a human, but it's just that we forgot. We were taught to be amnesiac about our true spiritual nature. And so this is a time on earth where the focus on heart and the focus on consciousness is going to be really important for, people like yourselves and what you're doing. And then, of course, not necessarily people who are leaders for groups in a public way, but just, the way you show up when you sit in the back of the taxi and you can tell that the person's a bit down and you're feeling pretty resourced. And so you can just kind of be heart present with them and see if that has an effect, or even not towards another person, just walking through the forest in your open heart. You're seeding a trail as you go. So those are just a couple of the things they talk about.
Yeah, I want to take exactly what you were just talking about a step further. In the book, the Z's say it's more important to be a connected person, like you were just saying, than an admired one. Societally, I feel like we want to be admired, but really, the Z's are saying it's so much more important to be connected. And I feel that. I feel like that's a good goal for us all to have.
Yeah, because if you think about it, admiration, it will be really useful if you have a wound of low self-esteem, like the first few times it happens, but it's not very nutritional because it's not really yours. Like someone else's admiration, unless you're kind of in a dance with them and you're feeding off them, you see that. You'll see people who need their ego fed by certain people, but of course they're always starving because they're not actually getting any nutrition. Because if admiration from people can give you the gift of your low self-esteem or feeling that no one will ever admire you, if once it's rebalanced that in you, other people's admiration is theirs. It's not really anything you should try and take and run through your own body, because it's very sweet and everything, but it's not yours. So to me, I think there is a stage for all of us, for our egos and our energy bodies, where we heal things, but then you heal things and you let go. You're not going to come back to an even more rigid identity. You're actually going to continually let go of the identity to some degree so that you can just be present and a little less affected by all of that human stuff. And yet it's so true, isn't it, that we've all been sold a bill of goods. That same story we were told, well, go to university, get married, here's the path for you. And, if you earn enough money that you can go on holiday once a year for 2 weeks, and I'm talking about my childhood, I'm aware that people listening to this will have grown up through different cultures, but that was the path I was shown. You work hard, and if you're lucky, you can afford to go on holiday for 2 weeks a year to a beach. And remember, I lived in England, so the weather is not anything to write home about until it's summer. And that was kind of what we were shown. And yet, I think what's really interesting, I always paid attention to the people who were wealthy and successful, who would tell us, yeah, I mean, it's cool for, the first 3 months. And yeah, I went out and bought all the cars I wanted. And then I realized, oh, that's not nutritional. It's not actually presence, connection, being with people. I think it's tricky because we have a lot of wounds around success and around money, understandably, because we've got such a stacked system at the moment where, there's a few at the top with all the resources, and then most of the rest of us aren't in that place. I think it's interesting to notice how judgmental people get when they hear people tell those stories. Oh, it's all right for you to say because you're rich. And I understand that attitude if you're struggling, but actually they are giving you a true message, because at a certain point, what more do you need in terms of resources, admiration, success? I think if anything, what it can free you to is to make you go, oh, actually, what is really important is spending that time with my mom or my best friend, or being able to look up in the sky and see the birds. That's actually the value of life, rather than this kind of organized system we were sold. So, and this is a tricky time because we're many of us grew up in that system, and we're sometimes very awkwardly, understandably, having to learn to create something new, even while the current system has a real stranglehold over certain things. So we're in this era of change and transformation that's tricky.